300 shillings. I want to tell you that I have also witnessed.
Even in churches?
Even, I'm telling you, a church that does that. Yeah?
Okay.
So, of course, you say, Omaro, you're saying this, you run the risk of not being, we have to talk about these things now, because many politicians will tell you that they come to really, really feel conned and cheated when they get into politics and look for votes via the church way. And we have also come to the realization that when you actually use church as a platform for your campaigns, purely, not like you depend on it, you are unlikely to succeed. Because, of course, it's like a rubber. The moment you come, you do your thing, then like a small one, somebody comes and rubs it. So we have to have a situation where we also qualify these people.
All right. Simple as that.
Yeah, you have to have some standards. There should be, if it's self-regulation, let it not just be a safety valve to get out of this debate. Because I think that's what I hear, like, we are being regulated and whatever. Because if you are to have the right kind of qualifications, if you have to say the number of congregants that would qualify you to be a senior pastor, and the level of education that would make you a bishop, we agree. I mean, if you look at Ephesians chapter 4, verses 11, the fivefold ministry, those ones are never learned in any classroom. Some of those giftings of the Holy Spirit, they are never learned in any classroom. But over and above that, there should be some minimum standard. Now, finally, this is my fourth point. The democratization of the franchise of the church has led to a very huge constituency of the evangelicals. Now, their voice is so strong that you no longer hear about the NCCK. The mainstream churches are in the minority. They are formal structure, they have a colonial history, they have existed for long. But now, because Amaura can start his own church, Ambai can start another one, and we coronate ourselves and attach ourselves to one main bishop in an evangelical outfit, they have a greater role. In fact, if they are to mobilize their members, they would be more than the other mainstream. In fact, formal churches are more for the middle class. They're educated, they're established. I mean, the ones that are proper. But these other ones at Kuribasaika are many. So then what does that mean? It has also changed the landscape of our politics. That the voice of the NCCK, the Ufungamano initiatives, whatever, the people whom they have brought as a new constitution has been muzzled. And if you want to believe so, look at even who are the people who may occupy public positions. Are they the traditional PCA, AIC bishops? No. They are now these other ones. They are the ones who seem to have, access to political power. So I think we have also to look at that. And if they are not regulated, if they are also not well established, because we used to have NCCK, we have the Catholic bishops, and then now we had the Evangelical Association, AAI, something like that. But now there are so many other groups that have come out. We use them now to also regulate their membership. There should be formal registration, and I would want to suggest that we have a special act, maybe you can call it a church act of registration, so that you move them from the registrar of societies. You cannot compare a church with a society for animal welfare association. For example, you understand what I'm going to say? You have to have so that the special features of building that kind of formation or organization are well coded in law.
And you follow it that way. Anyway, this is interesting and quite an emotive subject. Bearing in mind the gravitas that the church has in this particular country. Anyway, let's shift focus to other matters and perhaps talk politics right now. And it would be proper to note that what has been said around the protests and the demonstrations, Azimio yesterday through Raila Odinga mentioning that the protests will be peaceful. That is a game of wait and see. And equally just yesterday, President William Ruto dared them, will meet you head on, as simple as that. Equally urging for negotiations through the bipartisan route. Anyway, this is an interesting one. Mbui, let's start with you. Is there, bearing in mind how the protest played out, do you take it seriously when they mention that it will be peaceful? Is it possible to have peaceful demonstrations in the country where property and lives are not affected or destroyed?
My friend, I want us to answer that question, I want us to be answered by two things. First is history. We've had an history of demonstrations, political demonstrations in Nairobi, in the country. And I don't think we can remember one which went peacefully. So, going by history, we don't expect a peaceful political demonstration. We've had other demonstrations which have been peaceful. Traders in the CBD have done demonstrations to the president, to the deputy presidents. The Private Security Workers Association has done a demonstration peacefully, gone to their offices, to their organization, given their grievances peacefully.
Yeah.
But since independence, we've never had peaceful demonstration. And we have had worse cases which we would not want to think of, like the one of 2007, 2002, 2008, which really people, good number of people were killed, people were raped, people were displaced, community cleansing, all these things happened. So, coming back to Nairobi, it's not today that Azimio is beginning the first maandamano in relation to the matter we are discussing. I think it will be, if not the 7th, the 8th maandamano. And all the maandamanos they've done has not been peaceful, because we can say we've not seen the leaders not being peaceful. Because you can see Raila is on top of the roof of his car, peaceful. And when he finds crowds, he talks as a leader. We've seen Kalonzo, we've seen Martha Karua, them charging the crowds. But we've seen the crowds now doing the demonstrations, people running, burning businesses, vandalizing shops in Kisumu, vandalizing shops here in Nairobi, some days. And these are things which is presenting to go by. Is the same thing we expect today. So, for anyone in the business of protecting the citizens and their properties, which is basically the police, the work of the police is to protect life and properties of wananchi. There are two ways of doing it. You can either be protect it from happening, or take charge and after it has happened, as in protect people from carrying out a theft, or don't protect them, allow them to go ahead with the theft, arrest them, take them to court. It's like the medical field, that it is protective,
prevention is better than
protective and curative.
Yes, yes.
So I think the police now have taken up the protective one. Instead of allowing maandamano to experience deaths, to experience vandalism, to experience unnecessary traffic in town, slowing down businesses, to expect people closing their businesses a whole day when someone is running on a loan, someone is has to pay rent by the end of the month, someone has to pay workers by the end of the month. You know, we have to change the way we handle the maandamano now from the government side. Or the way Musalia had put it earlier about the law, is either, because we've gone ahead and broken the law, is either we agree this is the norm. Whatever is being said to be breaking the law is the norm. So we change the law to envisage that and allow that. Can we think of allowing ourselves to change the law so that we can have riotous and peaceful maandamano causing death? No. So the only way out is either to allow maandamano to go ahead and have this mayhem, or stop it. And the very pragmatic way of doing it is to stop it. So I think we have to think of stopping it.
Okay.
The police have the capacity to stop it. The president has given the goodwill about supporting the stopping of the maandamano, because from where he sits as the president, he has the responsibility to protect Kenyans and their businesses and their properties, and also to provide a conducive environment for investors in this country. When people have come to look for areas and for investments, and they're seeing fires everywhere in Nairobi, the TVs are running all these things live, you know, this is not what we expect with when we are trying to woo investors to our country. And the worst thing, my friend, is the constant in all the maandamanos we have had You know, when you are trying to analyze a situation, there are things you look into. If you are trying to unearth or to, like the DCI, when they are trying to investigate a certain crime, you have to connect the crime to the scene, or connect the scene to the crime, or rebuild the scene. One of the constants when we want to analyze the scene of our mandamanos, political mandamanos in Kenya, there has been one constant, Raila Odinga. From 98, he went head-on with Moi. He lost the election. He went for mandamano, and Moi could not survive for 5 years. He had to call him for a meeting. They had to discuss. Jogo akameza kuku, akameza tinga, and Kalonzo lost the seat of the Secretary General. Raila became the Secretary General and became the Minister of Energy. He found himself in the government. And the people who are demonstrating, all these young men who are demonstrating with him, were left in Kibera, were left somewhere hustling. And some went to court, and he never cared about them.
Okay.
Come to Kibaki. He had to push Kibaki until we had the eminent people, the Kofi Annan, coming in. And Raila pushed until he became the Mukate government. He became a prime minister in the government. The people he was with, they were left out. The people who are demonstrating, none benefited. Let's move to Uhuru Kenyatta. They went dead on Uhuru Kenyatta. He lost to Uhuru Kenyatta. What happened? He saw himself in. He started this movement and the resist thing. And it ended up with handshake, basically being the de facto deputy president. I know we are all in Kenya and we could see this. And that's how the handshake government was moved, with Raila in the government. What happened? Even his deputy, the person who was the running mate, Kalonzo Musyoka, was not there when the handshake was not being done.
Okay.
Today, and my brother is here, Makali Mulu, if we could ask for a single project that we got in Ukambani, courtesy of the handshake, because Kalonzo was on the handshake with Raila, there is zero project. But when we go to the Luo Nyanza, let's be realistic here, we find the airport was refurbished, was upgraded. Yeah. We find new ships, the shipping thing in Lake Victoria was upgraded, and the military was there doing all these things. Okay. Roads were done. So it means all the people who are demonstrating with him, assisting him, he left them when he got to government. Now, he is doing this, what he is calling national dialogue, which will end up in something like an handshake. You know, it was cooperation, then Nusmukate, then handshake. Now he is looking for national dialogue. And national dialogue, the only way this can end is by having Raila in the government, doing something in government.
So that's the goal in mind.
That is the goal in mind, and he will leave the people.
So according to you, it's not about the cost of living. Forget about
nothing. You think William Ruto doesn't care about the cost of living? At any given time, can you sit and think that William Ruto, being the president, is it not thinking about the cost of living? Is not doing something about the cost of living? Okay. Raila knows very well what Ruto is doing. The governors, you've not seen the governors doing demonstrations. They know what the president is doing about the cost of living for their people. So this is all kisingizio. The server. How do you tell the president to open the server? The president was as a candidate, the way Raila was a candidate. So you can't tell the president to open the server. Then there's this thing of the president never won. They want to throw him out of State House. For heaven's sake, what is that? That is coup d'etat. It sets us back to 1982, okay, when the same guy was associated with the same.
All right.
So the only way out, and what I would want to advise
briefly,
as a leader, we've seen the police clobbering these young men demonstrating. Tear gas, young men are beaten. Now let's deal with the actual people commanding the demonstrations. Because no demonstration can start until Raila gets out of his residence and comes to the crowds. Until Raila is seen by the crowds are peaceful, even if we had called for demonstration. Even Kalonzo, when Kalonzo comes, the crowds will not start demonstrating. even Mother Karua comes, the crowds will not start demonstrating before Raila comes.
So
but when the Raila comes,
lawfully.
it gets too hot.
Okay.
So lawfully, let's not go for the young for the small fish. Let's arrest Raila. Let's get him locked. Let him be taken to court tomorrow. This narrative of being told, when you touch Baba, this country will burn. Let's arrest him and see the country burning tomorrow. Nothing will happen. It's just a scarecrow.
Well, we definitely have to approach this conversation. We were talking about, is it the National Cohesion and Integration Commission? You know,
what is the purpose?
Okay.
What is the purpose of pragmatic thinking? What are we lacking as a country to warrant this mandamano, if you are asked?
But you know, mandamano is definitely enshrined in the Constitution.
Yes.
They have a right.
But there has to be a reason as to why you are doing it.
Well, according to the protest, and Makali Mulu perhaps will give us a little bit of information around that. It's around the cost of living and a couple of issues, IEBC.
The handshake government is the one which brought up the high cost of living. Actually, Ruto has lowered the cost of living.
Exactly, and that's a question. Why were then there protests while the cost was 230? Now that
Raila was defending it.
Okay, anyway, Makali.
Anyway, maybe just this is a matter we've already debated for a very long time.
Yeah.
And one thing I always encourage my colleagues to do is when we get to this matter, that, you know, I'm a mayor through Wiper. And because the matter we are discussing is of national interest, it's always good to go above the party connections so that you put the matter into context. And that's what I want to do. Jesse, look at the Constitution. Article 37 of the Constitution makes a provision for every person to assemble. That is a constitutional right. And it also gives a provision that every person can picket. Which means, as I said earlier, Kenyans in their own wisdom didn't decide that if you want to assemble and you want to picket and you want to demonstrate and you want to present a petition to anybody, that right is enshrined in the Constitution. It's a constitutional right, so you can't take it away.
True. Unless
Unless you go back to them again and say, let's take it away. Now, starting from there, the second point is, because I want to do this in a structured way so that we know where we are. The second point is that now, do we have issues which warrant demonstration? I think both sides of the political divide, that is Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, have agreed that there are issues. That's why we have a team of parliamentarians which has been put together by the two sides to discuss these matters on the table. And that's why they are saying now we all agree that there's a parliamentary process which has been kicked off. It's a matter of now the internal disagreements within them. So, which means the fact that President Ruto decided to give us a team of 7 members of parliament, and the fact that Azimio through Honorable Raila Molo gave Kenyans a team of 7 parliamentarians to sit down on a round table, it means that there are issues. What are the issues? One of the issues is cost of living. The other issue is the IBC commissioners. These two are not controversial as of now. If these were the only 2 issues being discussed, this team would be working currently. Because both sides of the divide have agreed these 2 issues are issues of concern to Kenyans.
Right.
The other 2 issues which Azimio is pushing to the table, which seem to be controversial, is the issue of opening the SAPA. That's controversial because we don't seem to have. And there was another issue of then the 4 who were sacked to come back. You know that. Yeah. So these 2 are controversial. These other 2 are not controversial. So the truth of the matter is the fact that now we have a team, then issues are there. Now this team, which has been now appointed to address these issues, if today it was working as effectively as expected, without what the side shows we are saying that we have goodwill in these teams, I don't think today people would be talking about demonstration. Because what Azimio is saying is, we gave you a team of 7, you gave us a team of 7, but from what we are seeing, the signals coming out clear are that you don't have the goodwill to a serious and effective discussion to sort out the issues. Now that you don't show that goodwill, then what is our next move? Our next move is to go back to the streets, so that now we exercise our democratic right and see whether we can give us this. And to me, what I'm saying is, now that the demonstrations are a constitutional provision, you cannot tell somebody not to demonstrate. And then time you tell them don't demonstrate, unless you have suspended the same constitution, then you don't have the mandate. The other thing is, the same constitution gives the office of the president the mandate to provide that symbol of national unity. That anything you do, you should be seen to be promoting national unity. At the same time, the same constitution gives the same president the mandate to maintain peace in this country, using the state operators.
Yes, as we finalize.
To protect lives and property.
Yes.
Now, what does that say? So it says that the president, when he says nobody is going to be allowed to destroy property and kill Kenyans under my watch, is also right. That's a constitutional right. So what is the way forward? The way forward is allow demonstrators to go to the streets to demonstrate and allow peace to prevail. In this country, the institution mandated by the constitution to ensure there is peace in this country is the police. So what you should be seeing today is the police escorting the demonstrators to present their petition in Treasury, present their petition in a Public Service Commission, and present their petition. There is a that of which they are going to go.
Is it Harambee House, the office?
Harambee House. I think so that the petition, the demonstrators should be peacefully, in a peaceful manner, be escorted by the police. Which now means the president is achieving his constitutional duty of maintaining peace, to present the petition, and after that they disperse and go home. It has happened in the past. That's the solution. The solution is not to say don't demonstrate, and that's why we want to see people being escorted. Demonstrators should go to the streets, be escorted by the police, present their petitions, go home. And as Mio has said, we are going to ensure that peace is maintained.
Maintained, as simple. Well, it's a tough task.
Maura can take that up.
Kindly, Maura. And let's be brief about it because we're out of time. We'll give you the final comment.
Okay, I think it's true that demonstrations are allowed in the Constitution, but we need to regulate them because every right has a responsibility. I don't think there's any demonstrator who should also make it that I close my business, that I cannot go to work, and all of that. And as Bungei, the police commander, put it, the Azimio protests have been anything but peaceful. So what we should ask ourselves, these are not protests, they are not demonstrations about certain issues. Because look at Azimio's game plan. They protested, then they said they have accepted the call by the president to do a parliamentary process. Then they frustrated that from taking over because already Raila had made a demand that they should go the Kofi Annan way. They're even trying to precipitate a crisis by claiming that they have been threatened with the murder and they have written to the ICC. Yet they are the provocateurs. So these people, they wanted that so that then they continue to protest. Then they have something outside of parliament because they know in parliament they think there's a structure. They have what you call structured chaos. So in other jurisdictions, what do? If you are protesting, there is a protest square. It can even be outside of a major public installation. And that is allowed, but as you contain yourself there, traffic will flow. You can be there the whole day and make your petitions known. Go to New York, you'll see that. Go to London, you even see next to Downing Street, you'll see that. Actually, on the same Downing Street, there's a protest square. If you go to New York, there's that rough bunch place there, people, do across there.
But have we seen that in Paris? Apparently protesting about...
But Paris is different because they are used to revolutions. You can go all the way up to Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, who was telling protesters to take, if they cannot eat bread, they can eat cake, So it's basically the issue of protest is not, it cannot bring the cost of living. This is a power grab. That is what it is for.
As simple as that.
Yeah, and so therefore it should be dealt with the way it is. Raila Odinga is very predictable. He feels very entitled to governance. He thinks like without him the country cannot move forward. I think this should be dealt with once and for all. The government won. He had accepted defeat, but Uhuru Kenyatta has revived him so that they are now on the side together with him. Kalonzo is not even featuring anywhere. Mother Karo is a flower girl, just following what the big boys are doing. And eventually, if there was to be anything, it's Raila who would go home with everything. And for sure, if you go to Kisumu, you'll find that they have benefited a lot from the handshake.
Okay.
Believe you me, even the Kisumu was ranked as the 6th cleanest city in Africa. Right. That tells you something. Right. And the levels of poverty have gone down. Right. So we know the appropriation of resources through violence and who benefits from it.
Interesting. So it seems both sides of the political divide are sticking to their guns. We definitely hope that the protests will be peaceful, as Makali Mulu has mentioned, but equally we hope the police on the other side will be able to perhaps facilitate. It won't be police versus Kenyans, but it's a game of wait and see. Let's see how it all plays out. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. It's been 3 hours of informing our audiences on the latest news making headlines. We definitely appreciate your input right here. Makali Mulu, asante sana for your time. It's a pleasure to have you with us. CAS Isaac Maura, always a pleasure, and you're always welcome. And equally, it's a pleasure to have you, Nimrod Mbai. Asante sana for your time, Meshimiwa. All right, that brings us to the end of today's edition of Morning